If you're a serial entrepreneur or you want to create multiple businesses under one brand, it may be time for you to consider forming a holding company. Don't worry. In this video, we're going to talk about all of the benefits and disadvantages of setting up a holding company. So stay tuned.
My faith rising. I'm crawling out the trenches, holding me.
Hello visionaries, welcome back to my channel. My name is Maresa Talbert. I'm the founder and CEO of Talbert Law Office, your favorite go-to legal resource for all things business, nonprofit, and intellectual property law. All right, I already told you that we're talking about holding companies today. This type of company can be extremely beneficial for the right entrepreneur. And that right entrepreneur just may be you. So let's jump right into it. First, what is a holding company? A holding company is a business entity, typically a corporation or an LLC, that exists for the sole purpose of owning and controlling assets, such as real estate, intellectual property, or other businesses. Now, if you're familiar with the term of holding company at all, you might have heard holding company used interchangeably with parent company, but they do have their distinctions. While both the parent and the holding companies own and control other businesses and assets, a holding company generally does not sell products and services itself, whereas the parent company does. And any business entity that a parent or holding company owns is called a subsidiary. For example, Warren Buffett's company, Berkshire Hathaway, is a holding company. It only exists to own and control other assets, such as Geico Insurance, Dairy Queen, Fruit of the Loom, Heinz, even Benjamin Moore, and a plethora of other subsidiaries. It's no wonder that man is a gazillionaire. Then you have Alphabet, which is another holding company that owns Google, YouTube, and Nest. On the other hand, you have Amazon, which is a parent company because it sells its own products and services, but it also owns Whole Foods and Zappos. You could even have a holding company for your intellectual property, which would specifically be designed to own, protect, manage, sell, and license your trademarks, your copyrights, your patents, and any other IP assets that you or your company owns. So let's check out a few. Here we have the trademark for Blue Ivy Carter, which is Beyonce and Jay-Z's daughter, and this trademark was filed by Beyonce and Jay-Z. But here you see that the applicant or the owner listed on the trademark filing is BGK Trademark Holdings LLC. You also have Night Night, which is a trademark of Steph Curry. However, you see here that the owner listed is SC30 Inc. And last but not least, we have Shut Up and Dribble, which is a trademark that was filed by LeBron James. However, you see that the owner listed is Uninterrupted IP. So why is this a thing? Why the peoples with all the monies think that this is a good idea? Well, I'll tell you why. Because it is. So let's dig into some of these benefits right now. First of all, as an individual, as an entrepreneur, as a small business owner, we are always trying to minimize our legal risks. And a holding or a parent company can help you do that. How, you ask? Well, holding companies and the subsidiary entities that they own are independent of each other. That allows your holding company to be used as an additional layer of protection. If you transfer some of your assets from the subsidiary, which is the main operating business, to the holding company, then those assets become separate from your main operating business. If something ever happens to the main business, you get sued, you have to file for bankruptcy, or some other tragic event, those assets that are now held by the holding company are protected from creditors and protected from the liabilities of the main business or of its subsidiary company. Additionally, you've heard me talk about piercing the corporate veil in some of my other videos. Just to refresh, if you have mismanaged your business in some way, you could potentially lose the liability protection of the corporation or the LLC, which is the whole point of creating a corporation or an LLC, is to have liability. And that is known as piercing the corporate veil. This allows your personal assets, such as your family home or your family car, to be subject to a lawsuit. I just recently pierced the corporate veil against a business for one of my clients. One of my clients was in dispute with another company over a sum of about $60,000. I checked out this company's business filings and discovered that this company had not either filed or paid their taxes, and they were suspended as a business entity. So guess what? That gave me all the information I needed to pursue this person's personal assets to recover that $60,000 for my client. Yes, indeed. So what does that mean practically for that person? That means upon a judgment, if they don't have the $60,000 in their business to refund to my client, they might have to sell their car, they might have to sell their home or refinance their home or take out a loan or lien against their home, something like that. Where when you have that liability protection from the entity, you are only liable to what the business has. So if the business is not worth $60,000, I wouldn't be able to recover the full $60,000. I'd recover $30,000 or whatever the business was worth. On the other hand, if this person had a holding company, I would not have been able to access that owner's personal assets that easily, because the layers would have been the main operating business that my client interacted with, the holding company on top of that, and then the owner and the owner's personal assets. So if I pierce the corporate veil of the main business, I only get to the holding company. And it's really hard to pierce the corporate veil of a holding company because they don't have any operations. Remember, I said you can pierce the corporate veil when you have mismanaged or done something wrong in your business. In this case, with the situation with my client, the other business had not paid their taxes and they were suspended as a business entity. So that allowed me to pierce the corporate veil with that situation. All right, I think you got the point on minimizing your exposure to risk. Moving right along. Number 2, the second reason why any of us form a business entity in the first place is for the tax benefits. When a holding company owns 80% or more of a subsidiary company, those companies become eligible to submit a consolidated income tax return, where the loss of one company can offset the profits of another. So basically, if you have a holding company and a subsidiary or multiple subsidiaries, you don't have to file a separate tax return for each business. Secondly, if you have a holding company and a subsidiary or even multiple subsidiaries, and one makes $100,000 in profit and the other had a loss of $20,000 in profit, you can merge those companies' tax returns to say, one made $100,000 in profit, one took a loss of $20,000 in profit. So together, I only made $80,000 from these companies. So you can take the loss of one to offset the profit of another. And what does that do? That not only makes for an easier tax filing, but it lowers your taxable income. But remember, you can only do this when the holding company owns at least 80% of the companies that you want to consolidate into this merged tax return. Now, make sure you consult a tax professional before you try to do this, because I am not her. Additionally, when a holding company owns 80% or more in a subsidiary, that holding company may be able to receive tax-free income to the holding company from dividends of the subsidiary. Okay, that sounds like mumbo jumbo. But if you know, you know. If you have a corporation, you know that you can give your shareholders dividends, which is a cut of the profits. So if your holding company is a stock owner in your corporation and you distribute dividends, those dividends to the holding company could be tax-free. And that is one way for your holding company to make income. More on that later. Number 3, a holding company can help you increase your privacy. In many states, when you form a company, the business owner must disclose the identity of the company's ownership, which is made public. This is where incorporating in a state like Wyoming or Delaware comes in handy. They are states that allow anonymity of ownership, but also because holding assets is not considered transacting business, you can actually enjoy the benefits of the corporate-friendly state law and generally lower tax rates. And last but not least, number 4 is that a holding company allows you to centralize management and operations amongst multiple businesses. Now, you know there's 2 sides to every story. So I want to talk about the disadvantages of a holding company as well. Number 1 is setup costs. Holding companies are truly a strategic asset and requires experienced professionals to help you set it up properly. These professionals may include an attorney, an accountant, and a tax strategist, which can be expensive. Number 2, you could have negative tax implications. If your holding company is not properly structured and certain qualifications are not met, a holding company could introduce additional taxes to include an increase in personal income taxes that come from distributions made by the holding company. And the last disadvantage that I'll talk about is the difficulty in raising capital. In some instances, if you're seeking to raise capital through shares or external investments, a holding company could make that a bit problematic. Remember, a holding company must own and control the subsidiary, which would require the holding company to own at least 51%. If you have multiple investors who want a sizable share of ownership, it may be hard to only be able to dole out 49% to one or multiple investors. Well, I think I gave you enough information for today. In the next video, we're going to do a part 2, and we're going to talk about how a holding company makes money. This is just starting to get good, y'all. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm trying to get to 100 subscribers by December 31st, so please share with your friends, your colleagues, and your fellow entrepreneurs. And with that, this is Talbert Law Office, your favorite go-to legal resource for all things business, nonprofit, and intellectual property law. I'll see you in the next video.
I done made it this far. I'ma keep it pushing, yeah. Even made it through the